Joining us on the line right now is Jeanne Monahan Mancini, who is president of the March for Life Education and Defense Fund. This, of course, is the day that we have the March for Life. You know, it started on January 22nd, 1974, on the first anniversary of the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade, and has come to be the largest pro-life event in the world. Could you tell us a little bit about the plans for today, ma'am?
I'd love to. Thanks for having me on, Brian and Larry. Good morning. So we begin today at about 12:15 with a little bit of a warm-up, and then our official rally starts right at noon on the National Mall. For any of your listeners who are planning on coming out, we'll be right at 12th Street on the National Mall, and then about an hour later after the rally, we'll kick off our march, and that will be at 14th and Constitution.
And who are the speakers today?
Oh, gosh, we've got a huge lineup, and they're all related to our theme, Every Life is a Gift, and specifically targeting little babies who receive a poor prenatal diagnosis like Down syndrome, etc. So we've got a number of speakers from the Hill. This morning, Congressman Chris Smith, Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers, Congressman Dan Lipinski, so we're getting both sides of the political aisle there. And then we've got folks like Carl Anderson, who is the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus. He's going to be speaking about ultrasounds and their 500th ultrasound that they've donated to a pregnancy center. We've got a radiologist, Dr. Gracie Christie, who's done some amazing work in the medical field, basically related to this problem of poor prenatal diagnosis, and a whole lineup of other speakers as well.
We have been reporting this morning that yesterday the Republican majority in the House pulled a bill that was supposed to have been passed in commemoration for the 42nd anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And the bill was going to limit abortions in America. You've got a brand new majority in the Senate there, led by Republican Mitch McConnell. And yet the bill did not make it through the House even. And there were concerns that the bill did not have enough language protecting women who are victims of rape and also victims of incest, and but also for the life of the mother at hand. And I wonder, listen, I know where you stand on the pro-life issue. However, why don't you take a page from the Democrats? Democrats, they want state-run health care, but they didn't pass a law that completely institutionalized or nationalized health care. No, they do it incrementally. Why not pass this law a little bit at a time, and why not get some of the things passed through the House and the Senate that so many Americans do agree on?
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. I'll tell you, there's a poll that's going to be published today that shows that 85% of Americans are not in favor of abortion after the first 3 months. This would have been a common sense law passed last night, and we are all enormously disappointed.
So you'd be in favor of that law being rewritten to accommodate, because some congresswomen, Republican congressmen and women, expressed concerns that there wasn't enough language having to do with victims of rape, incest, and health or life of the mother. You'd be okay with a 20-week ban on abortion, post-20-week ban on abortion, with some language in there that protected those issues?
Oh, not only okay, but we're going to continue working on this. I mean, we have the Majority Leader McCarthy's promise, and we really want to lean on that this bill is not dead, that we're going to continue to work on it, and that we're going to come up with language that everyone can agree with. So, he's promised us a vote on this. It may not be today. It won't be today, but hopefully in the next few weeks and months ahead.
Who has promised you?
Majority Leader McCarthy.
Okay, so let me ask you, so you believe that it is not dead, it will go forward, and that you're okay with this tinkering with the language going forward?
Well, of course, you want to see language before you say you're okay with
I understand,
any kind of
right.
tinkering. But if we can all come to an agreement, this is a common sense bill. Mm-hmm. And it's really just unfortunate and disappointing what happened last night. But we're absolutely, in favor of this going forward, and I believe it will happen.
You mentioned that, attitudes seem to be changing across the country on this, and I've always sort of had this theory that started to happen when people got pregnant and started to see the sonograms. Is that what you think is going on in America that's changing attitudes?
I do. I absolutely do. Science and technology are on the side of life. And so as you say, we can see and hear a beating heart now within a few weeks, basically, of pregnancy. It's unbelievable. And I think that that's strongly influenced the public opinion in terms of becoming more pro-life. We also have a lot more research. This bill that we were talking about is related to fetal pain. We know that babies can feel pain at 20 weeks of development. So there's all sorts of things. We've got, on the negative side, we've got a lot of research on post-abortion syndrome and also the physiological side effects of abortion. So there's all sorts of things that go into, again, science and technology, helping us to become a more pro-life America.
Our guest is Jeanne Monahan Mancini, and she is leading the March for Life today on the National Mall. And Jeanne, when you had a Republican in the White House, I think going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, you would always get a very special message from that pro-life president, no matter who it was, whether it was a Reagan or twice a Bush. You don't have a Republican in the White House right now, so you won't be getting a message like that. But who will be there? Are you going to have some elected officials, or maybe some men who would like to be president in 2 years?
Well, we are a nonpartisan organization, but as I mentioned before, we will most definitely have the congressional part of the program is really important. Not only will we have the speakers that I mentioned, I think I forgot to mention Senator Tim Scott, which is also a great addition.
Fantastic. And let's just remind everyone, Tim Scott, African-American from South Carolina in the Senate, and of course African-Americans are, on a percentage basis, affected by legalized abortion in America more so than any other race. That's
right. That's absolutely right. And we'll also have lots of legislators standing in solidarity with the other members there today too. So we're not necessarily showcasing presidential candidates for the next election. We're kind of working on what we're doing now. And we've got lots of other speakers related to our theme, as I mentioned. You just mentioned African Americans who are disproportionately targeted for abortion. So these little ones who receive a poor prenatal diagnosis are targeted for abortion at a much higher rate. This is a terrible statistic, but the national average of abortion is 19%. So that means about 1 in 5 babies in the United States every year are aborted. Well, the national average for little ones who have Down syndrome and encephaly spina bifida, it's 85%. So we're talking 8 to 9 out of 10 of these little ones are aborted. So we're going to try to bring some light to this issue today and talk about the inherent dignity of every human person, that every life is a gift.
All right. So once again, if somebody wants to join you down on the mall today starting at 11:45, where should they go?
They should go to 12th Street in the mall, right by the Smithsonian Metro station. And then the march itself starts at 1, and that's at Constitution and 14th.
All right. Thank you so much.
Jeanne, thank you so
much.
much.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to amplify that last point she made is so good. When we hear about, our healthcare laws emphasizing prenatal screening and all of that, and that's a great thing, those prenatal tests. Yeah. I've been through it for 4 pregnancies, all right? But when they tell you ahead of time, if they screen for something and they see something, the full court press you get from healthcare officials is unbelievable. There are so many people who are almost cheerleaders for terminating that pregnancy. And yes, they do target what many would call low information voters out there. And tragically, many abortions occur that really should not.